Raid Shadow Legends. If you pay attention to any gaming or internet culture channels, you've no doubt heard the name. It's become one of the most ubiquitous promotions on the platform, right next to Dollar Shave Club and Manscaped. As opposed to those other products, however, where you at least get something you can hold and use, Raid is just a mobile app. A mobile app with a lot of promises. So, what does Raid promise? Powerful champions, visceral 3D artwork, PvP arena, deep strategic play, and it'll probably make you breakfast if you coax it to stay the night. Of course, we hear these promises from mobile games all the time, and yet why do I never see the gameplay channels that promote the game actually playing it at any other time than the ad? Could it be that Raid isn't all it promises to be? Well, my friends, that's where I come in. I've got 5 days and $5, by the end of both of which we'll find out whether Raid Shadow Legends is mobile mastery or just mobile misery. First of all, if I'm going to sell my soul and time to a game I don't have high hopes for to begin with, I might as well do so helping a channel I like. If anyone could use the help clicking their affiliate link will give them, it's an animator, so I'll follow the link at one of my favorite animation channels. Plus, I get a free rare champion and 100,000 silver in the bundle. I don't know what either of those mean just yet, but I'll hope it's something good. We go to the Play Store as I'm an Android boy, and the torture begins. The game starts out with the sort of tutorial you might see in any other. You're given limited control over a set of high-level champions. Obviously, you won't have them forever, but it at least gives you a chance to learn the basics of how the game is played with confidence that you won't get whooped the first time around. The characters speak to each other a bit, and it's about what you expect. Orc hate elf, elf hate orc, blah blah blah, standard fantasy stuff. Gotta say, the graphics are good, even if it isn't up to par with PC games, as the advertisements like to claim. Anyway, your champions end up getting whooped by a big-ass dragon, and a ginger in the ever-classy chainmail bikini starts to exposit all over your screen. You get to keep one of the champions you were just controlling. I go with the smart elfie boy because he looks like he could help me with my taxes, and move on. You are taken to your bastion, the hub where you'll spend most of your time prepping. And though most of the place is locked until you hit a higher level, you at least learn how to summon champions to your cause. The rest of my first day is spent learning the many systems, currencies, and bonuses that Raid has to offer. Trying to integrate all these in an interesting way into the narrative of my playing the game would be far too difficult, and I want to make the production schedule of these videos be a clean week, maybe 8 days. So let's get it all over with here and now. That way I can talk about what each day was like a little bit more organically. Okay, just kidding. Well, sort of. I really had intended to talk about all the different systems, menus, game modes, and currencies in Raid, condensing it, then playing Flight of the Bumblebee over the sound of my sped-up voice. It was going to be very funny and make me a viral hit overnight. But the recording of just that section ended up being 10 minutes long. I could never make it both reasonably long and comprehensible, hence why it's missing here. If you really want to listen to it, links in the description. Just trust me when I say that Raid has clearly mistaken complexity and volume for nuance and quality. Day 1 of the game was the sort you'd expect from most mobile games. I got a lot of levels, which is nice, and gaining levels gives you a fat stack of energy, which I wasn't able to get through for the first 2.5 days, even though I spent more than the 2 hours I promised to commit to the game daily on more than one occasion. It also got me a fair number of gems, but when I got a chance to take a look at the in-game store, it turned out that gems don't do much. More on that later. Anyway, I explore around a bit, picking up whatever advantages I can. Daily login rewards? Great. Daily login rewards specifically for new players? Nice. Link my Amazon account. I'm already neck deep, so why not? Playtime rewards for playing up to 3 hours? Well, I would discover that the final reward isn't worth the time it takes to accrue, but it does serve as a neat timer for how long I've had the game up. There's even a sort of subscription service that gives you more XP and silver for each battle you get into, and since the first week is free and Google promises I can cancel without being charged before that week is up, I'll go ahead and sign up. We can trust Google, right? What quickly becomes apparent is that the 100,000 silver I got through that YouTube promotion isn't going to get me very far. Silver is used for nearly everything in this game, not otherwise using another resource, and even then silver sometimes manages to sneak its way in. Summoning a champion? Well, it's nice you have that shard, but you need to coax the champion through the mysterious portal with a fat sack of cash. Leveling up your champions in the tavern? You better pay out blood money to the families of the other champions you sacrifice along the way. Upgrading your equipment? This one makes sense at least, but I hope you have enough around when your equipment fails to upgrade time and time again, even with a so-called high chance of success. To do all this, however, you need to actually play the game. So let's raid some shadows, you legends. The game is what I think you'd call a strike team builder. You build and kit out a squad to attack several sets of enemies, sometimes with a boss at the end. Certain characters will have certain strengths and weaknesses. There's a Star Wars game I once played that functions like this, and Marvel Strike Force looks like it draws on the same basic concept. Different compositions of teams will be required to effectively take down different challenges. That's certainly the case here. The rock, paper, scissors relationship between champion types, as well as the void type, which has no particular strength or weakness, does mean that, depending on how close to your champion's average level the encounter is, you will have to pay attention to what types of enemies you should expect to face before entering a level. Raid's single-player encounters each consist of 3 battles. The only real tactical decision you need to make once you've decided which champions to use on your strike team is when to use certain moves. You see, each battle within an encounter is its own fishbowl. Damage your champions take is mostly carried over, and champions knocked out don't continue to the next fight, but any buffs or debuffs are wiped clean, and the speed of your champions, which determines whether they go first, is reset. Moves beyond a champion's basic attack take 2 or more turns to recharge, so if you let loose a bevy of buffs or strong attacks right as one battle ended, you'll have to wait to recast them in the next fight. Now, this is when, in a good game, you would nod your head and mutter some notes to yourself about strategic thinking. Perhaps pull out your copy of Sun Tzu's Art of War, but nope, raid ain't that special. The truth is that if your team comp is good enough to take out the opponent, it'll be good enough regardless of whether your buffs are well-timed or not. How would I know? Well, there's a handy little auto button in the bottom left of the battle UI, and you can press that button once and never have to make another mid-battle decision ever again. There may be a few times when you take control for fun, or when you tap on a particular enemy to make sure your champions focus them down first, but that's all extremely optional. By the 3rd day I was playing, I had even caught on to the mind-numbing multi-battle mode, which allows you to set your champions to play the same encounter over and over again up to 100 times a day. You, an intellectual, might think that sounds stupid. Why wouldn't you just go to the next encounter where there would be, supposedly, better loot? Well, you see, there are so many different potions, scrolls, artifacts, and shards you need to farm for in order to keep up with Raid's plethora of champion improvement systems, that grinding out the same fights over and over is basically all you're ever going to do. Now, what you could do is skip all that grinding and, you know, spend some money. And considering that multi-battles have finally helped me achieve hands-free gaming, let's talk about monetization. In case you're wondering, I did spend my allotted $5 to pick up a champion, but oh boy, Raid never stops telling you that there are, in fact, many things to spend your money on. Almost every time you turn on the game or return to your bastion, you are assailed with a range of options for what you can spend your money on at that time. An average number of ads to see pop up is 3, normally ranging in cost from $15 to $30. The most egregious instance, however, was when I logged in for the first time on my 2nd day. I was met with no less than 8 ads, with the most least expensive being only $3 and the least expensive up at a whopping $70. If I had jumped on every single one of these offers, I would have spent an average of $27.25 and a grand total of $218. Granted, some of these are one-time purchases, including a $30 package to celebrate hitting level 20, but the majority are daily or weekly specials, meaning that someone with the money and desire to keep gas in this game's tank can easily end up spending more each week than I pay toward my student debt in any given month, and I'm only through 10 of the 15 auto battles I set after writing over 300 words and discussing what to do for tonight's dinner with my wife. Oh my gosh, this is getting stupid. There are all these dungeons I have to explore, artifacts to level up, and a quote, story to advance. But the more I play, the less I care. Maybe I could check out the PvP, but no, that's just as boring. More boring even. At least in the single player sessions, there are 3 battles to each encounter. In the arena, it's just one at a time, and I have to spend these weird arena tokens that you only get 10 of at any given moment. You know what? My champions are still only 11 battles in. Let's talk about the company that started it all, Plarium Games. Plarium Games, based in Israel, was founded in 2009. The company's website says they have over 1,400 employees across 8 locations in Israel, Eastern Europe, and the United States, all working on mobile titles. They currently have a catalog of 15 active games, all of which boast the title:/subtitle naming scheme common to mobile games, such as Pirates, Tides of Fortune, Vikings, War of Clans, and, of course, Raid: Shadow Legends. I recognize the names of several of their games, including the aforementioned Vikings: War of Clans, as they are often featured on the Google Play app whenever I open it to check for updates. They claim to have over 290 million registered users. Whether that means they have 290 million players that can be individually identified, or 290 million Plarium accounts, I do not know. I did not sign up for a Plarium account, so if it's the latter, I am not part of that number. Taking a look around Plarium's website, it's obvious that Raid is the crown jewel of their catalog. There are 2 blog articles featured on the front page, featuring pro gamers, where they shamelessly promote Raid even when the individual being interviewed says nothing about it. In an interview with League of Legends pro Professor Akali, they lavish praise on the PvP portion of the game, stating,
"It has the depth and customization options that competitive players seek."
which is patently untrue. The hands-off gameplay is as far away from what makes a good competitive game as you can get. What's even more confusing is that whoever is writing these articles doesn't seem to have their facts straight. In that same Professor Akali interview, the writer, who goes simply by Plarium staff, states that Raid
has delivered top-class competitive mobile gaming by adapting the PC version to be compatible with mobile phones.
ignoring the fact that the PC version was only launched recently, making it the adaptation, not the mobile game. The company is unashamed in its self-promotion, and it's clear that the point of these interviews was just to get the interviewee to say something about mobile games, so they could slip in the title of Raid in relation to what was said. As of August 2017, Plarium is wholly owned and operated by Aristocrat Leisure, an Australian games company which has been around since the mid-1950s. Plarium was Aristocrat Leisure's first investment in the mobile gaming space, their primary focus being on slot machines. Okay, the multi-battle's finally over. Jeez, do I really have another 2.5 days to play? Well, I did, and I played, but not that much. You see, despite the glut of energy I had early on, it quickly ran out once I got to the point where grinding the same levels over and over again became the norm. Energy does recharge once you go under your current cap, but with 12 minutes before you have the energy even for one basic encounter, and at least an hour before you can think about going into a multi-battle, the need for additional energy boosts from the store or one of the many progression or achievement awards is dire. I had managed to earn enough gems organically to buy a few energy fill-ups from the shops, and some of the quests and event rewards give me more energy, but I wanted to save as many as I could for the final day. Even with all that energy I had stored up for the 5th day, however, I simply couldn't do enough. I had shoved all my resources into the team I had curated, but it floundered in the face of the challenges ahead. Even when you gear out, ascend, and rank up champions earned early on, they are never as good as those who start at higher rarities. They don't have as many moves, the moves aren't as good, and their stats need a crutch of the best gear you can possibly give them. I was mostly getting mystic shards for my encounters, which give me just more fodder worth only what XP my natively higher ranked champions can suck out of them. My hoard of silver was higher than I'd ever seen it, but only because I had ceased caring enough to spend it on upgrading my equipment. I had come to it, that barrier that nearly all mobile games eventually erect in your path. The hard truth is that once you get to about level 24 or 25, you hit the wall. The pay wall. This wall is mighty, and it has only one weak point. A bank teller window, in which you must shove whatever disposable income you might think you have until it explodes, letting you through and ending up against another identical wall. With my measly $5 budget and a need to confront and defeat my addictive tendencies, I will never defeat this wall, and in the end, I'm glad for it. By the time I logged into the game for the final day, I didn't know where to begin. It wasn't knowing that the experiment was at an end that struck me with such indecision. It was just this sinking feeling of pointlessness. What could I possibly get done with my limited resources? Where was the best place to spend them when there are so many different places you need to spend them on? I'm not opposed to grinding. I've played into the endgame of multiple expansions in World of Warcraft, so logging into a game and doing the same thing day in and day out isn't new to me, but this game is so incredibly hands-off, so reliant on the blessings of RNGesus to give you what you need, that it can't help but lose my interest from the moment the first pop-up advertising some fabulous package arrives on my screen. So, with my final day rolling by on autopilot, expending the rest of my resources to get the most out of them I possibly can, let's get down to giving Raid a rating. I'll be going on a 20-point scale comprised of 4 factors: immersion, engagement, monetization, and freedom. First, immersion, which factors in graphics and story. How does the game look, and how much do you care about what's happening in it? There do exist unattractive games with little to no story, which can be fun to play purely by virtue of solid gameplay, but if you're going to stick to a game in the overflowing mobile market for longer than a day, it needs to hold your attention. Raid's graphics are good. Not mind-blowing, nowhere near the same level of console or PC games as they claim, but if you're a fan of more realistic fantasy-themed characters, this game has you covered. I could complain about the lack of diversity in animations or sound effects, but I barely pay attention to the battles as they progress, so what would be the point? The story, however, is not so good. It's dull, unwaveringly standard, and the fact that your random assortment of bland, cookie-cutter fantasy champions have no actual agency in the story, the sort of which contrives reason after reason why these fights are happening in the first place and replaces your characters with the company, a group of hooded placeholders who exist only in cutscenes, makes it more awkward for existing in the first place. 2 out of 5. Next, engagement. I've already been over this, but to recap, Raid's level of engagement is minimal. It's not exactly an idle clicker. There are some decisions which need to be made regarding where you choose to spend your energy and various currencies, as well as some tactical decisions which can advantage your champions even during auto battles. But once you get to the point where you learn to take advantage of multi-battles, it's a set and forget sort of game. In general, your champion's AI of just using the best move available to them is sufficient to let you lay back and relax. The fact that one of the features they boast on their Google Play page is hassle-free autoplay says it all. Another 2 out of 5. After that, monetization. I do not know how to describe just how broken Raid's monetization is. When a game offers you an olive branch during a time of need, or when it calculates when players should be running low on fuel and you pay to grab it, that's a smart move. Manipulative, but smart. Raid is constantly in your face about the packages of shards, potions, silver, and other resources you can buy for money. What drives me absolutely nuts is that the pay-to-win currency, gems, can't even be used for a fair number of these. You have to pay straight from your wallet. Most other games at least offer the illusion of being in their world by having you buy in-game currency, then spending it on items and packages, but Plarium games can't be bothered with such subtleties, and they don't want to risk that you accrue enough gems for free that you can get these packages just by virtue of playing their game. They want you to crack that bank account wide open, and they aren't ashamed to ask for it. Honestly, gems shouldn't even exist. They should just replace any instance of them with a dollar value and be done with it. 0 points. I'm not even going to justify this trash with the minimum score. Next, freedom. Most mobile games ads make a point of highlighting that they're free to play, but just how free is free? As I discovered, you can make your way fairly comfortably in Raid for about 3 days, maybe 4 if you don't spend any extra time grinding like I did. After that, the need for more energy, more silver, and higher quality shards to keep up with the pace you've set overtakes your ability to generate them through regular gameplay. 3 out of 5. That gives us a grand total of 7 out of 20, below average. Raid Shadow Legends is a game designed purely for whales, the people with the money to spend and willingness to pay whatever it takes to get ahead. There are no engaging characters, the lore doesn't matter, the graphics are okay but not mind-blowing, and the company is positively rabid about shoving their monetized packages in your face. Even those parts which I rated as okay are tarnished by a game that doesn't have enough going for it to keep you immersed, unless all you need in life is to keep watching numbers go up, regardless of how much money gets spent to scratch that itch.
I've been known to fall asleep at any angle in every locale. It's been said it's hard to keep track of when I'm around, but
I'm sure that, even with this limited footage, there will be people who point out ways I could have better managed and maximized my resources, but I don't think it would have made an incredible difference in my overall enjoyment of the game, just made me slightly better at stringing it along for a slightly longer amount of time. I think a good way to sum this up is through an interaction I had with my father. Basically, our whole family has huddled up at home to weather this coronavirus emergency, and he asked me while I was cleaning the chain on my motorcycle whether I knew my phone was making noise. I said yes, that it was a game and that it was playing itself. Confused, he asked why I would be wasting valuable battery life on a game I wasn't even playing, And that, my friends, is the most appropriate review I can possibly think of to leave our friend Raid Shadow Legends.